Welcome to the Health Science Podcast, sponsored by the National Health Association. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, and today I'm absolutely delighted to have as my guest an old friend and a very inspirational being, Susan Smith-Jones. Susan is a celebrated author, has written more books than I can mention. She's written thousands of articles. She's got a new book that we're going to discuss, Hug in a Mug, which is fantastic. She's really been an inspirational health consultant nationally and internationally for many years, taught over 30 years at UCLA to students, staff, and faculty. She has been chosen by the President's Council on Fitness as one of the 10 healthy American fitness leaders. Welcome, Susan Smith-Jones. How are you? Welcome to the Health Science Podcast, brought to you by the National Health Association, the oldest organization in the world, championing the extraordinary benefits of a whole plant food diet and healthy lifestyle, as well as water-only fasting. We believe that health results from healthful living and focus on evidence-based science that promotes the health of you and your loved ones, as well as the health of all animals and the environment. We feature experts from a cross-section of disciplines within the plant nutrition, vegan, psychological, environmental, and animal compassion sectors. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, the NHA's Director of Health Education.
Well, thank you, Dr. Frank. And I'm not an old friend. I'm a longtime young friend.
Okay, that's right. We're longtime friends. We don't want to use that word in a bad, derogative way. It's funny. I had somebody that when I used to do forms for when people would fill in their consultant forms and they would ask for an age, and one person put eternal. And I like that a lot, eternal, which was very good.
Yes. And I like to say ageless.
Ageless and eternal. Yes.
Yes, you got it. Eternal.
So you have been connected to this kind of teaching and, helping people realize the power that they have to heal within, self-healing, and really teaching people how to do that in their lives. And your life has been an incredible example of that. Let's go back, though, and talk about your connection and the early parts of your journey and what those aha moments and influences were that began your journey, that got you on this path.
Yes, and I love starting with that. I was in my teens. I was barely 16. And my dad unexpectedly died, and I didn't handle it well. And for about a year after his death, I ate everything in sight. I had a beige and white diet. I gained 50 pounds in a year. I also got 4 ailments that begin with A. I got acne, allergies, asthma, arthritis. I was bullied in school with my massive weight gain, with my acne, with my runny nose. I didn't want to live anymore. And I had a wonderful, still do, there she is, grandmother who was not a doctor, but she came from Denmark and she studied with the best people. She studied, and we thought she was the kooky health nut. I didn't know much about health. It's weird how you get blessings from negativity. But she studied, Frank, for years with Herbert Shelton. She also studied with Dr. Stephan Esser's grandfather. So she saw me hitting bottom, and she came to me one day and said, my nickname's Sonny. She said, Sonny, we need to do something about how you're feeling, how you're looking. Let me take you to the doctors just to make sure I would be okay. But she knew what she was doing. So we went to a doctor. He gave us a pile of prescriptions to be filled immediately. But Susan, you'll have to live with these ailments the rest of your life. Well, my grandmother wasn't into that. She knew I could heal my body with her guidance. She said, come home with me. We need to have a heart-to-heart talk. And she said, it was summer. She said, if you live with me for 3 months, I promise you all of those ailments, starting with the letter A, will go away. And you will lose the 50 pounds and you'll go from negative and not wanting to live anymore to positive as can be. Well, that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. She had my total attention. I stayed with her for 3 months. She made me read, Frank, every single one of Herbert Shelton's books. When I first started, and I read about fasting can save your life and everything else, it was so foreign to me. But I knew my grandmother was smart and wise in the ways of living close to the earth. So I read every one of Herbert's books, Herbert Shelton. She taught me everything she learned personally from her teachers, Dr. Stephen Esser's grandfather, Dr. Esser, and Herbert Shelton. And then we went to work. Then she taught me about the benefits of plant-based foods, an SOS-free diet. This is way back in the 60s, although I was 1 year old. No. And then she taught me about growing sprouts, about eating more raw foods, big part of my diet, about going out in nature every day, about the importance of prayer and faith and belief and determination, and why I needed to sleep. Everything from in those days, and she had me join. She was a member back in the late 60s, the American Natural Hygiene Society, that we now know it as National Health Association. So then so her great wisdom taught me so much. And then I worked with her for several years until she passed away. And then as a result of her wisdom, to this day, I have never had to take any prescription medications, haven't had a cold in just over 40 years. And after she passed away, I got 5 university degrees, most of them at UCLA. And then I started my career. You asked how I got started in holistic health and lifestyle. And then I taught, like you just said, at UCLA, for teaching students, staff, and faculty how to be healthy and fit for 30 years. And then in the year 2000, I retired from UCLA so I could travel the world and give talks and work with individuals and companies and organizations, teaching people how to heal their body and how to be vibrantly healthy, which now I'm, 3 decades later, and many, many books. And today I'm so happy that we're debuting my latest book together.
Well, that was a lot to take on as a teenager, all of that information that your grandmother shared with you. So it's kudos to you that even at that young age, you were willing to kind of embrace that message, because, teenage years are a kind of a time of rebellion and self-discovery. And we do sometimes some very destructive things till we find our way. But you got turned on early and you kind of stayed on course, which is pretty amazing in itself.
Yes. And you're so right, because when she first started to teach me about juicing, and she put me on a 3-day fast, I did rebel. I cried. I didn't want to do this. I said, I want to go home. But she said, honey, just stick with it, stick with it. And then day by day, you know how you re-educate your taste buds. And day by day, you get a little better, a little better, a little better. And then it was almost in the shortest amount of time, like a miracle, that I could go from literally not wanting to live and having just acne all over, runny nose, aches in my joints, hard time breathing. It was all gone. And yes, what you eat is important, but there are other factors too, like your exercise, keeping your stress levels down, because that can wreak havoc on every system and cell of your body. Getting outside in nature as much as possible. I like to take my, like Fritzie, my grandmother, what would happen back in those days when I was working with her is people from the neighborhood would come over and say, Fritzie, I have an earache, or I was diagnosed with cancer, or I've got diabetes, or I've got bowel issues. And the first thing she would do, and also if they came over and were depressed, she'd take them out to her beautiful backyard that had a lot of grass, beautiful flowers all around. And she would say to them, let's just walk for 5 minutes in silence. Because she used to say to me that we're born with 2 ears and 1 mouth. So maybe God was trying to tell us something. And she knew that by just walking barefoot on her grass, and she asked them to look at and appreciate the beauty. She had a beautiful garden. And then after a while, I was in charge of it. And because what happens, we know now in studies of the last 20 years, that when you appreciate beauty around you, Emerson said, appreciate beauty because it's God's handwriting to you. But when you do that, you literally change the vibrational rate of your body, just like SOS-free diet does. And positive thoughts make you vibrate your whole body at a higher level. And then after about 5 minutes, she would then let the person talk. She used to say to me that one of the greatest hungers of the human heart is just to feel understood. Because often these days, and I know you know this, that you're talking to someone, but they're looking at their watch, they're looking at their phone, they're looking all over. They're just not even paying attention to you. It's such a gift that we can give other people to pay attention, to give them our time, let them know they are important and special to us. So she would do that with the people in her backyard. And then she'd let them talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. And then she'd often end up giving them a cup, come inside or sit on the little deck. We'll have some chamomile tea. And then we'd always give to whatever person came over, and she never charged anyone. She'd give them, we had little jars of, because we grew sprouts. Still to this day in my kitchen, if I walked you there, you'd see sprouts. I have broccoli, garbanzo bean, lentil, red clover, and alfalfa. And we'd give them a little mason jar with a lid and a ribbon, and then they would go home with fresh sprouts. And then one of my jobs was, if they wanted to learn how to sprout, I had to go to their house and teach them. It's so easy. But it was an amazing beginning that started off a little rough because I thought she was a kooky crazy, to changing my entire life, my career, and making me feel so blessed. And I still feel her around me all the time. And I like to say that I think one of God's greatest blessings to us is our miraculous body that has the ability, we have the keys to the inner power within us right now to heal our bodies, to extend life, to be uplifted day in and day out. Often we're so busy from the moment we wake up till we go to bed at night that we don't take a few moments in quiet and silence and tune in to this intuition, the whisperings of God, of our intuition that's with us 24/7. So that's what she taught me so much. That, and probably I'd say, if there's one most important thing she taught me, it is that the way to live a balanced and more peaceful life, and who doesn't want that these days, especially with less stress, is to live each and every day thankfully. Every day, count your blessings. Not only is it just a great thing to do, but also studies now show that when you're thankful and you live with gratitude and you show kindness to others and yourself, your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. And then it will release endorphins like you get in the runner's high when you do aerobic exercise. It also releases dopamine and serotonin. And with the way the world is these days, we need to live more by counting our blessings and being positive. Because one more thing, I get all carried away here. There are 3 things over which we have much control. One is what we think, our attitudes, what we think. Secondly, how we move, the exercise we get. Thirdly, what we eat. Nobody shoves the food down your throat. You decide what it is that you're eating. And there are a lot of things in life over which we're not in control. But those three things, we are in control. And you are the president and CEO of your body, your health, and your life.
I'm here with Susan Smith-Jones. We're going to take just a very short break to hear from our sponsor, the National Health Association, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the NHA Health Science Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino. Are you ready to revolutionize your health? Then you're ready for the 2024 National Health Association Conference taking place in June of 2024. Join us for inspiring talks by experts like Drs. Dean and Aisha Shirzai, Dr. Neil Barnard, Dr. Ron Weiss, and Dr. Lori Marbus, in addition to Drs. Goldhammer, Dr. Esser, Dr. Fitzgerald, and yours truly, Dr. Frank Sabatino, along with leading SOS-free chefs Kathy Fisher, Brittany Giroudi, and Dylan Holmes. Register now at healthscience.org/NHA conference and enjoy early bird savings until December 31st of 2023. This conference will transform your health journey. Secure your spot today. And remember, your feedback matters. Please take a moment to leave a rating and a review wherever you're listening to the NHA Health Science Podcast. Also, be sure to visit the NHA website at healthscience.org. That's healthscience.org to get lots of great recipes, articles, newsletter archives, and become a member of the NHA. I'm Dr. Frank Sabatino, your host, and now back to the show. Welcome back to the Health Science Podcast. I'm here with Susan Smith-Jones, and we're talking about this incredible creation that we are, this incredible ability that the body has to heal, and how we are really the CEO of our own bodies. And, we want to make the most lucrative and functional structure that we can, business. I always tell people, you deal with a lot of CEOs and I do too. I say, what did it take for you to be so successful in your company? And, they would lay out the things that they did. I said, well, you need to bring that kind of focus to the lifestyle for your own body.
Yeah.
That commitment to those essentials, as you mentioned, the biological requirements. So with that in mind, let's talk about this beautiful thing that you created. This is your most recent book, A Hug and a Mug. And let's talk about where that title came from, what that's about, and really what you were trying to accomplish with this book. You've written so many books and you've had so many things to say for so long. What compelled you to say this at this time with this book?
Yes. Well, number one, COVID happened. I'm happy to say I never got COVID because I know I have a strong immune system. And a lot of people were saying to me, Susan, you've been for the last quarter of a century all around the world teaching your gold star secrets. It would be really nice if you could put them all in a book. So A Hug and a Mug, there's a subtitle that tells you more. The subtitle is Revitalize with Fruits, Veggies, Juices, Soups, Spices, Teas, and Healthy Living Extras. No more room on the cover to make the subtitle longer. So it's about all of that. But the book right before that was Uplifted, 12 Minutes to More Joy, Faith, Peace, Kindness, and Vitality. So this one, Uplifted's more about mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. Then A Hug and a Mug is all the physical. It's part plant-based, SOS-free, delicious cookbook. I'm a really great cook. I'm a recipe developer, putting myself through college. I had many jobs, one being a lifeguard, and another one was I had a catering business, and then I worked as a private chef to teach people who ate normal meals how to make them healthier. So it's part cookbook, part rejuvenation, part detoxification. It's got all my grandmother's and my favorite natural alternative therapies and natural remedies. It's part fitness. It's part how to boost your self-esteem. Lots of great quotes. My favorite quotes, and you're one of them, by the way. And I've in Hug and a Mug, I've recommended multiple times the National Health Association, your podcast. I love. Thank you for having me. I love your podcast, and um, so I've got all of this combined, and I didn't want to give you a 600-page book, so I had to divide it into 2 books. The Uplifted and the Hug and a Mug. We're debuting that one today. And they both work individually, but
Right.
together it's my whole program where I can take anybody. And if someone gives me 30 days to follow the program, I can have them looking and feeling 10 years younger. And
Well,
that's what
Susan,
I've been doing for decades.
if they give you that 30 days, I get that. Are you working with people privately? Are you still doing that? Or is it all through the written material? Or do you do things online? Talk about
Well,
how.
these 2 books do it privately. So
Okay.
it's like I'm your life coach, your health coach. You don't need to work with me. If you get these 2 books, you'll have everything. Um, on a rare occasion now, I have clients out of town, but I do a lot of virtual too. That's easy
Okay.
instead of flying here and there. A lot of people think that can be so glamorous. It can be very tiring. I work with a lot of celebrities and famous people where I live here in Brentwood, Santa Monica area of LA, and I do consultations. But mostly, you can get everything in these 2 companion books. They're not sold as a set. You can get them on Amazon. The better bookstores have them. But if you go to my website, then and you go in the navigation bar to books and you scroll to either Uplifted or a Hug and a Mug, there's a way to get personally autographed copies. They come to me. I write out a lovely handwritten note card for you or someone you want to give it to. It depends on who it's for. And I put a bookmark in it. I address the envelope. I go to the post office and I ship these all over the world. It feels like my extended family.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful. So, let's put this up right now. What is that website, Susan? Where can people go for that?
Yes, it's my name, and it really is my name. I didn't make it up. It's SusanSmithJones.com. Susan Smith Jones. I'm not married, but I figure if I ever get married, I want his last name to be Brown. Then I can have all 4 of the most popular names in the United States.
Um, you have a phrase in your work, and I want you to go into it. And I really like it because it speaks to the element of spirit too. And that is the phrase living victoriously, which is kind of a very intriguing phrase. Let's delve into that a little bit. What does that mean to you, and how do you inspire people to do that? Because again, like we talk about this too often, people feel victimized. They feel like they're victims of the world. They're victims of, they really feel like they're the target of a lot of negativity. And this takes it and makes it a very proactive, self-empowerment. So let's talk about what that means to you and how you inspire people to live victoriously.
Yes, I love that. I'm the first to admit, and especially these days, that life can be very difficult. You turn on any radio news broadcast or TV, you just hear negativity. It's easy to get down in our lives. If you don't get enough sleep, you get depressed. If you're dehydrated, if you eat a crappy diet, a beige and white diet, lots of salt and additives, and a lot of caffeine and alcohol, it's easy to feel like you're a victim. But I'm here to say that you can live victoriously. You've got to make a commitment to your health, because once you start, the body, let me say it this way, the body reflects the mind and the mind reflects the spirit. but the body is a great place to start. And like I said a moment ago, you have control over what you're thinking, how you're moving, and what you're eating. And once you begin to see your body get healthier and healthier, and you get more fit, and you actually re-educate your taste buds, and you actually enjoy eating healthy foods, because when you detoxify and cleanse and rejuvenate your body on an SOS free, and for me it's as much organic food as possible, that catalyzes and motivates you when you get fit to eat a better diet. You know, they go hand in hand. So we're in charge of our body. And then once you get that on track, then you make other commitments to get enough good sleep at night, drink enough water, get outside in nature. And another place to start is with your attitude, because negative thoughts can come into your mind all the time. And Frank Fritzy used to say to me that, honey, your attitude is your mind's paintbrush. It can color anything. So, and it's good if you live with someone, because you can't change what you don't recognize. And ask someone you trust who won't bring things up in a negative way to remind you when you're being negative. And once they remind you enough, and it usually takes 21 days. Benjamin Franklin once said, whatever you do for 21 days will make or break a habit. And you have to do consecutively the same thing. So maybe you say for 21 days, I'm going to have no salt, or I'm going to have no ice cream, no desserts, or for 21 days, I'm going to eat a SOS free diet. And you'll find after 21 days, you no longer crave what you gave up, and you look forward to what you added in. So what happens is when you make that commitment, then everything in your life will begin to turn around. When you live more thankfully, when you get healthier, you vibrate at a higher level. This isn't a kooky thing that they just talk about in LA here. It's a real deal. And a lot of people will say to me things like this, well, Susan, I know I should eat a better diet, but I can't do it for 2 weeks because it's my birthday, my anniversary, and the church's bake sale. Or they'll say I can't exercise for a couple weeks or a month because I'm under too much stress. You've got to stop letting your excuses get in the way. Self-discipline is so important, and you're never going to get to the top of the mountain of that soul achievement of full body health and vitality unless you have some self-discipline in your life. And it takes you taking charge of your life. And it's not like you wake up tomorrow morning and say, okay, Susan and Frank inspired me, I'm going to live a little bit better, and then you never have to do that again. Every day you renew your commitment. I live a very faith-filled life, and every morning when I wake up, and I'll talk in a moment about the first 40 minutes of the day, but when I wake up, before I'm even out of bed, I say a prayer and I say, God, I surrender to you. I give to you this day. Please take charge of everything I think, feel, say, and do. And I ask my guardian angels the same thing, and help me be a nice shining example for your love and light, and to learn some great lessons today. So I start the day that way. And I think everyone should start the day on a positive note. And I'll just say quickly then, the first 40 minutes of the day will set the tone for the day. Like, January 1st sets the tone for the year. Maybe the first day of the month sets the tone for the month. But every morning, you make the first 40 minutes how you want your life to be. And how do you want it to be? I think you want to be healthy and happy and not stressed out and rushed. So maybe the night before you set the breakfast table, or get out your gym clothes, or maybe your work clothes, or maybe you make the kids lunches. so that you can make those first 40 minutes wonderful. So I get up early. I get up much earlier than I think any of you. It's usually about 3 a.m. And I pray and I meditate, and then I make my turmeric ginger tea with the roots of those two, and I make little slices, put them in hot water, bring the tea kettle to a boil with the roots in, bring it to a simmer for 5 minutes, and I have beautiful tea. So I drink that, and then I always do a good workout. It's good to make your day, this sounds weird, but top heavy. Do the things that you don't particularly love to do. Get them out of the way in the morning. Exercise is a great thing to do, because then you have no excuses the rest of the day of oh, shoot, I didn't get in the exercise before dinner. So, and if you choose to live more positively, healthfully, gratefully, you will be victorious.
Susan, part of health, as things have evolved in healthy cultures and so on, is this sense of community connection, people coming together. How does that play in your own personal life? Do you have that sense? I know you're a self-starter. You and I have been doing this a long time. So we autonomously can do this very independently, but yet there's still that need in humanity to have connection with others. How do you foster that in your life, and how do you foster that in the people you work with?
Yes. Well, I often work with families that include kids, because it's more difficult if let's say you're the female and the wife and a mom of 3 kids. It's difficult if you're the only one who wants to get into this new lifestyle. So I encourage people to join with families, join with friends. I used to have, I don't anymore, just time-wise, because I can't find people to get up as early as I do. But I used to have exercise groups where we'd meet, like Paul Bragg used to do. I used to do this with Paul Bragg on the Santa Monica beach. A lot of young ones will have no idea who we're talking about. But I like to go hike in my Santa Monica mountains. I'm minutes from multiple trailheads. And I always go alone, but I love that quiet time. It's wonderful. And if I can ever find somebody to get up early enough and do a sunrise hike with me, I'll do that, and I enjoy that. But I happen to live in an area where there are lots of good health food restaurants. There's one that just opened that's completely organic and plant-based, 3 blocks away. It's even all organic. It is so delicious. And there's a story in A Hug and a Mug. It's several pages where I tell the story about Danielle, one of my clients, who came to see me. And she and her husband were very overweight. Their 3 kids were overweight. They lived down south a little bit, close to San Diego. And I did something out of the ordinary. I knew she had a guest room off of her kitchen. And so I said, can I come down for the first day and night? Let me just watch you. You're going to pretend like I'm not there. Okay, you're not even going to talk to me. I want to observe how you live. And then the next 3 days I stayed after that and helped them. Well, I learned that every single meal, they had tons of dairy on the table. Everyone salted their food before they tasted it. It was already salted. There was no raw food. The mom told me they never ate fruits and vegetables because it took too long to chew. When I told the husband how much water I drank in a day, he almost fell off his chair because he said he has 1 to 2 glasses in a week. The kids were being bullied in school. So I taught them about SOS-free diet and about making juices, which the kids then loved to do, about making fresh almond milk. Every other day I do that. It's nice to have fresh, raw almond milk, so much better than what you buy in the stores. I talked to them about exercise. I took them to the grocery store and they had hardly ever been into the produce section, and they couldn't believe all the colors and the beauty. That's where you and I could live, in the produce section of the grocery store. And as a result of the work with them over a month, all the kids lost their extra weight. The husband almost got there. It took 3.5 months for him. The wife lost all of her extra weight, and now she started to give dinner parties of SOS free meals and even raw food to her friends and people in the neighborhood, and they all loved it. So when you radiate vitality, then you inspire everyone around you. And that's what the National Health Association does too. I've given many talks for them. I've written many articles for Health Science, but it is such a valuable resource. And it's my favorite resource. And throughout A Hug and a Mug, besides promoting you and your podcast and your new book, and I also, through many pages, encourage people you must become, if you're not yet, a member of the National Health Association. I give you their website and their telephone number, because the magazine and the newsletter and your podcast, it will all change your life for the better. And then you can share that with your family and your friends in the community. That's how we make our lives better.
Well, what's nice now is that, as you know, every summer they have their annual convention, the NHA, which is remarkable. We have 400 people that come together, and there's such a beautiful sense of community. But the nice thing now is that it is streamed to thousands of people at home. So these people that can't make it to the conference, they can still take advantage of a community sense that the NHA teaches, and all these incredible people that come and speak while they're in the confines and safety of their own home. So yeah, it's lovely that all of that is kind of expanding. We have the technology. Too often we get lost in the negative aspect of technology, but there's a positive side that can really bring information that's incredibly self-sustaining to wide numbers of people now, which is a beautiful thing.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've probably spoken at their conferences about 15 times all over the country. And you're on such a high, because first of all, the food is great. Every talk is fantastic. You were always my favorite. And then after you leave there, you're on such a high for weeks and weeks, and you just want to keep going back and back. And when you just mentioned technology, even though technology is great, I also say that it's important a few times during the day to take a little break to refresh and reset, because just like our computer can run so many programs that it gets overwhelmed, our mind, our heart can, because of too much multitasking and entertainment on technology, can also get overwhelmed. So just 5 minutes during the day to reset. Maybe you play with your dog or cat. Maybe you have a cup of tea or juice. Even if it's a minute, 60 seconds of deep breathing, just to calm down and reset body, mind, and spirit. We just get so involved with go, 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 go. And we forget that deep breathing and calmness will help us get more out of life. So it's okay to unplug from technology every now and then. I strongly recommend it.
Yeah, we need to take that time where we can step back from the chatter of our lives and really go inside. And we don't spend enough time inside, really encountering that divine space that really operates within each of us, that literally connects each of us to each other.
That is so beautifully put. Silence.
Virginia Satir, one of the great family therapists, used to call it going to that, that inner sanctuary, that divine space, where we encounter that treasure that is called by our name. And I love that quote by her. It's such a beautiful quote.
That
because
is.
we don't encounter that treasure that we are enough. And so we lose sight of this incredible power and wisdom that operates within us, that if we could just align with it, we would all be so much better off and so much healthier.
Yes, yes. And silence is golden. And when you take a few minutes a day, I like to bookend my day with quiet silence, meditation, prayer. And I might not always get it in at the end of the day. I make sure I get it in the morning to start the day off on a positive note. My days always go better. And noise is different than like quiet. Noise is TV, radio, airplanes talking. But quiet, there's a quiet within each of us that we realize, like you just said, I'm just saying it in a different way, that 24/7, we have internal guidance within us, especially if you ever have to make big decisions. Don't rush the decision. Go into some quiet, sit quietly, breathe deeply. And there's a special meditation my grandmother taught me as a teenager. And in the Bible, in Psalms 46:10, and in Mark, where is it? In Mark 4:39, it's the three words, peace be still. And I always encourage people when they're sitting quietly to breathe in slowly and deeply. I usually breathe through the nose. Hopefully you don't have allergies or a cold. And I exhale slowly through the mouth. And as I breathe in, I'll say the words peace, either silently or out loud. And when I exhale slowly, I say be still, peace, be still. And if you do that 3 to 5 minutes, if you're agitated, stressed out, upset, angry, you will calm down so quickly, absolutely so quickly. If you don't like peace, be still, you could say stillness. You breathe in, long, slow, deep breath to still, and breathe out to ness. And here's another little simple thing that Fritzy taught me. If you take a thumb on your right nostril or your finger and only breathe through your left nostril for 3 to 5 minutes, especially like if you get up at night or you can't go to sleep, or you get up to use the bathroom and you go back to bed and you can't go to sleep. Do this breathing for 3 to 5 minutes slowly through just the left nostril, in and out. This is closed the entire time. What that does is it balances out your brain. It takes you from beta consciousness, which is where I hope everyone is now because it's waking consciousness, into alpha. And then the more relaxed you get, you then go to theta, and then you go to delta, which is sleep. And that will help you have sweet dreams and go to sleep fairly quickly if you have trouble sleeping.
Beautiful. Susan, as we wind down our conversation, are there any final words or ideas or thoughts or inspirational ideas you'd like to share with the audience out here?
I would like to say that one of the things that my grandmother taught me, many things, but this was like one of the 3 top things, is that if you want to experience and create high-level wellness in your life, then you've got to reduce the stress that you feel throughout the day. You've got to manage it better. According to recent studies, 80 to 90% of doctor visits are directly related to stress. What causes you stress, Frank, might be different than me. For a lot of people, it's the political fighting or terrorism or bumper-to-bumper traffic or unpaid bills or constant noise or deadlines, whatever it is. And when you're always under stress, it can create headaches and sleep debt, metabolic acidosis, diabetes. It can even cause cancer. So it's important to keep your stress down. If you don't, it affects every cell over 30 trillion plus cells in your body. And it also affects every organ and system in your body. And the ways to keep stress down are pretty much everything we talked about today, but they're in detail in A Hug and a Mug and Uplifted. And it's clean up your diet, go for SOS free, emphasize lots of raw foods and keep your body hydrated. Get time out in nature every day. Do your deep breathing. Strengthen your faith. Get exercise. Make good sleep every night, non-negotiable. And there's a little bit more, but we're running out of time. But it's all my whole Gold Star Fountain of Youth program and recipes. It's the holistic health and lifestyle books are in Hug and a Mug and also in Uplifted. They go individually, they're great, but together it's my whole program.
Well, I can't thank my guest, Susan Smith-Jones, enough for being with us today. And I really urge you as an audience to follow her. The website is on the show notes, which you see scrolling across the screen, or on Amazon. Pick up her books, A Hug and a Mug and Uplifted. They're companion books that really touch on the entire story of mind, body, and spirit together. So you really should have them both. And I really want to thank those of you that have joined us today, because without you, we can't do what we do. And I want to thank you for being part of this incredibly active and healthy community. And on behalf of the National Health Association, I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino. I want to thank you for joining us, and I look forward to being with you on the next episode of the Health Science Podcast. Thank you so much, Susan. It was such a pleasure being with you.
Thank you. And I'll just add, make sure on the homepage of my website, it's free. It takes 10 seconds. Sign up for my Healthy Living monthly. They're only monthly newsletters, and
Perfect.
Follow me on Twitter.
Wonderful.
Thank
you so much. You've been listening to the Health Science Podcast, brought to you by the National Health Association. Thank you for joining us today and for your commitment to evidence-based health science that backs a whole food, plant-exclusive lifestyle and contributes to the well-being of all people, animals, and our environment. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino. Be sure to leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next show.